Now the first is obviously polygonal and object density. It doesn't really take me to tell you that the world feels so alive, full and grounded. From the smooth round bonds of the injured soldier at the start to the sheer volume of machine's construction and intricacies they have, the team have certainly utilised the additional polygon pushing power of the PlayStation 5. Now remember, the original Horizon Zero Dawn was already a big poly pushing machine, 550,000 polygons just for the Thunderjaw alone. The game was maxing out the potential of the PlayStation 4 in terms of vertices. So they really are pushing forward on this, and it'll be interesting to see just how the PlayStation 4 version holds up, but I'm pretty sure they won't be utilising the primitive engine of the PlayStation 5 just yet. Again, those cross-generation limitations are probably one of the limitations that they're holding them back a little here in terms of what they could potentially do if it was just a PS5 title directly.
Gotta keep moving.
And you can see those limitations here. When she walks down this path, you can see the LOD switches. They're still using LOD, they're still using shadow cascade. You can still see objects fading in, popping in certain points of the title. It uses that dithered construction of the mesh object itself, and these reduction in LODs is exactly why this is a PlayStation 4 title. And it looks like a PlayStation 4 title. I know that sounds very epic, but the way the game's constructed, the techniques they're using and they're still using from the Decima engine, they can't change everything when they have to run this on a PlayStation 4. So everything they do has to scale between that level of power, and that means they're still limited by using the same rendering and construction methods they use in the original Horizon Zero Dawn, and that's why we're seeing very similar LOD switches with much further draw distance and much higher density. All these things can be reduced when they run it on the PlayStation 4, and that will make significant impacts in terms of the resolution and the performance, because they're reducing the amount of triangles on screen, and that is a very big overhead on any game. It doesn't get talked about more. It was used to be the big conversation in the 32-bit era, but it's still a big problem for engines in how much you can push through. You can see the density of the worlds are still very high, much higher than a lot of the objects we saw in Horizon Zero Dawn. There seems to be more natural constructions here and high density of objects when you walk around. These will be the highest quality object meshes that they can import from ZBrush or Maya or whatever they design their objects in, and then these will be LOD 0, and then on the PlayStation 4 they'll be cutting all these back. And then obviously you can see that they use the same techniques from Decima. So they use screen space reflections mixed with cube maps on the water surfaces. Here you can see the object in behind and in other areas of the game. And this is exactly the same as Horizon Zero Dawn, where they use screen space reflections and then they just merge those back with projected cube maps on water surfaces just to hide that blend. And then you get things like screen space shadows, which are drawing in here on some of these areas. So again, I'm not saying they're going to revolutionize the entire rendering system in terms of a PlayStation 5 engine, but they can't use the geometry engine, or at least its limited use in terms of rendering the whole game using that, and then moving over to something like meshlets, and reducing that complexity to like nanite that we saw on Unreal Engine 5. All of those techniques take a long time to implement, and you need to design them specifically for the hardware that's going to run it. That's why you're going to get that cutoff both in the console space and the PC space with games that can use that and Lumen, and that's exactly the same challenge that the Guerrilla have got here. They need to ensure that all these techniques still play well with the older generation of hardware, and then they ramp up the quality, which they've clearly done here in terms of utilising the PlayStation 5 hardware. It's likely not the most efficient use of it, but it's a damn impressive one nonetheless.